Does it
Oh,
sound all right there?
okay. It tells me I'm recording. There we go.
Yeah, so because of seeing you in Uddersfield all that time ago and being a
Yeah, it
big
was a while
amongst the
ago now.
guitars and noticing
Mm.
the way you played guitar was similar to the way I was just hitting it. Like, I like your style. It's like with the banjo. Fucking have it.
Yeah, just sort of hit it, hope it makes a noise.
I've realised that as long as you get your chords clean, you can do pretty much anything with your other
Yeah.
hand. So I've been learning things like, well, Fat Bottom Girls, Queen of my favourite, and then Freddie
Oh,
Mercury only uses three chords for Fat Bottom Girls in Year of 39. Two of my favourite
yeah. I've
songs.
been there's a it's for something, but I'm learning a bunch of Tom Waits stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I've got
Um,
into him recently. So I've been on a weird journey, is all I can say. So I just wandered into that place and I saw John Lydon just before I'd seen you at Uddersfield, and then
yeah,
seem to have got sucked into the art world somehow.
yeah. That's cool, man. I would say I can't even remember how you came across me. You just there
Right,
was
okay. Well,
someone which is
I'll set
on
the scene straight away. I'll say this is
because
Tim
I
Holehouse.
was so I you commented something on For All the Crows, which is on the new record, which is kind of what
I
we want
think
to
I
talk
saw you
about.
performing something that you said was. I want to fill in for. So I now represent Tribal Voices, by the way, from Small World
Oh,
Festival and various others. So we're a bit of a media project. We've made no money at all. Um, we're not about money, but I do need some at some point, which
yeah,
I'm getting from
don't we all?
acting and other sources at the moment. I was made homeless like just a few months before I wandered in there. I was living in a van at the time, which I still am kind of, although it's off the road. But one of the opportunities it gave me was a lot of free time,
Mm,
and I had some money in the bank, and I thought I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do,
mm,
and that involved following a lot of artists online because I've always been into more underground stuff through SoundClick and then SoundCloud. So I
mm.
thought, oh, start following some of these artists, and then noticing that they were performing at places near me in free venues, for example, And
Yeah.
I
So
saw
that
you
was yeah. It
perform
was,
that thing where you just shouted the Bones one, where you just
oh, Broken Bones. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Broken
The a
Bones,
cappella Broken Bones. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you
That's still a
credited
bit of a
some,
live favourite. That one.
yeah. Well,
We've
then you did
been trying
it,
to
and
kind of
we all
shake
had to
that one,
stand
but
up and
everybody wants.
join in.
Yeah.
Which I was always a little bit. I've never really liked attention or anything. I was not wondered whether I'll stamp out of time or anything. And actually, you can't, can you? Once you get that kind of a participation going,
Once one person starts doing it,
yeah,
then it becomes infectious. So it's always kind of fun when you've got a tour mate who knows the drill.
yeah,
So I like kind of get things going. I'm like, oh yeah, one stamp, one clap. It's not Queen because somebody always makes, oh, we will rock you. No, it's a different beat. And then you explain it to them, and then I start I've started doing like a beatbox
yeah.
to get them in rhythm. Um,
You got a
and
stomper thing
then
as well, haven't you? You just stamp your foot on it while you're
start
playing.
yeah, and the stomp box and stuff, and you just kind of get them going. And once they're going, everybody's kind of locks in because it's like when you mentioned tribal, it's kind of a tribal thing. It's like
It's,
once
yeah,
there's the rhythm,
it's to do with a
and there'll
heartbeat, I'm
always be
sure.
some smart ass who will try and do the offbeat.
Uh, so
There'll be some drummer who's like, "Yeah, I did the offbeat. Yeah, yeah, mate."
to be fair, I can't help it when I'm in a drum circle and everyone's doing this predictive rhythm. I can't help but just put in a little padump like that every now and
You're
then.
that guy then. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
then someone responds to it and it changes it. It's like subtle. It's have
Yeah.
that.
I
But
still think the
yeah,
best
that's all
thing I've
stuff
ever.
I've learned since. So I really like that, and I've not been into punk in my life. It's not something because I was a new wave and new romantic on Anglesey. Quite an uncomfortable thing to be, by the way, on Anglesey. But punk was something that my brother bought, like Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols, and it was Sham 69 and that kind of stuff to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I never really listened to it because I swallowed the hype. The these terrible young men, You know, I didn't understand what punk was. It looked all violent and things to me, but it turns out that the punks are the hippies, really, the real hippies. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's a like it's all a very blurred line these days. I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call what I do is punk. I had somebody the other day actually who didn't really listen to my stuff. They just listened to the first song, which is that comes up on Spotify, which is Freud, which is that grindcore blues one, which is fucking ridiculous. And that's not typical to everything I do because I do so much stuff. But they listen to that one song and they were like, "Oh, this guy's punk." And so, no, my whole thing is not to be boxed in. Like, I'll do what the fuck I like, which I guess is kind of punk in attitude, but it's
Exactly.
not
That's why I like
musically.
your
I
stuff, because
do all sorts of stuff. Like, I can play songwriter nights. I can play blues nights. I can play punk nights. I'm even doing like an electronic night.
that's that's the bit I like. Right. So this is the bit that
Hmm.
grabbed me, and it was when you sent me the one in the straight jacket in the padded cell
Oh yeah,
with Baba. See my
Babalak.
memories.
Yes, Twitch. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that, I listened to that. I was like, oh, this is up my alley, because this is similar to stuff that I might have made back in the day when I was messing around with EJ and just PlayStations and anything like that, you know? And
Yeah, I mean that was something like I always loved that trip hop scene in Bristol. I
trip hop.
lived Yeah, I lived down in Exeter and quite frequently went up to Bristol and I kind of met people like Tricky and stuff a couple of times and they were really awesome people. But I always like kind of was intrigued by that music because it wasn't something I necessarily made because I've come from a more of a like you say punk background or like guitar background. I did sort of proggy bands and indie bands and stuff, but it was never something like the early MIDI stuff was always so fucking tricky and you needed to work out and sampling. So I did a bit of sampling back in the day, but it was like, oh, this is kind of like trying to get my head around it. Now with modern technology, it's that stuff is and also my skills of sets have developed. Um
It's all that beat maxing and
yeah,
quantizing. So for me,
yeah. So
from
you can now just do it so easily. And
yeah,
I
well,
was like, that
I'm still
was
quite old school, because I still use EJ to just to assemble the basic track, right? With
hmm,
EJ, you've got to manually convert. So if it's been recorded at 90 beats per minute, and you're using a say EJ Dance Studio, they're very simple studios. It's set to 120 beats or 140 beats a minute, so you have to then put it into a time stretcher, stretch it, and so
yeah,
it's
time stretching and stuff, but that stuff's so much more easier to do these days. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, with
Well, I need
sampling,
to get my
sampling
Ableton
with
working again, so I can just throw them in and it'll do it.
so I used to have an Akai S20 sampler, and actually did like some of my music final pieces on the Akai S20 sampler,
Okay.
and it was like a floppy disk, and you had to like load in 16 floppy disks. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, and but it was kind of fun. It was like I was really into like stuff like DJ Shadow. So even though I was playing in rock bands, I was still kind of interested in stuff like DJ Shadow. I was like trying to see how we could like work the technology in, and even in like I guess my after my first sort of indie band fell apart, we started this project Shima with a guy called Steve who's in Brighton. He's a fucking incredible guy. Steve did live. Nobody could ever figure out what Steve was doing. He was like our best. He
Yeah,
was like
right.
he's a genuinely very interesting guy. He works in IT. He's the most normal looking dude you ever seen. Spend 10 minutes with Steve and you'll just be like, that guy is fucking insane. Like he
So,
spent
lesson
an
I've
hour
learned, by the way, is
staring at
don't
a bin with a subwoofer in it for no reason.
don't judge anyone by their cover, because I've been knocking
Yeah.
around the music industry now for 2.5, 3 years,
Hmm.
and some of the most talented people are 80 odd years old. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, and what you're doing is amazing, really, because you've been on the circuit for Christ knows how long. But
We're doing the
you've hit
solo
upon.
thing. It's nearly 20 years now. Like full time musician. I've been like uh full-time musician. I've been sort of nearly in 2026. It will be 20 years.
Whoa.
The first solo album came out September 2005, and I think kind of a lot of
When did you
mature.
buy your first Rolls Royce then?
Yeah, I wish.
So
I've
that's
got a Persia. I've got a Persia which currently doesn't have any heating in it. So that's my next job today. The fucking heating fan's
I
broken.
just, I met you just as your cars were dying, just as your little Peugeot estate, was it 10206 estate?
Oh yeah, the one I had before, the Silver Machine.
The
Yeah, that
silver machine. And then
yeah, got that
Harrison
thing
Rimmer.
by was it June 21? Yeah, died on a trip up to Scotland in Durham.
Oh, do me a favour, get Harrison Rimmer to do one of these. I've been trying to get him to do an interview for ages. He
Yeah,
goes,
yeah, yeah.
"Hey, yeah, I'll do it."
We Harrison. Yeah, he's got a lot going on in his head. That boy. He's another one. I mean, like you wouldn't like necessarily. He looks like a guy who like very sensibly dressed and
Ginger
like
Blackadder, I call him.
uh
He's got the.
yeah, yeah. He's like yeah, he's a very sweet man, and he's like. And it's kind of funny. He's all like sort of energy and upbeat, and he's like the most. He's like plain colors, and then he plays with Dave, who wears like the fucking loudest shirts, and it's like I
Is
love
that the
them
guy
as a
from
duo.
Hull?
Hmm?
Is that the guy
This guy
from
from
Hull?
York, from York, yeah,
All right. Well,
Dave.
there's one guy
He's
who
a
sings
horn
a
player, yeah,
song which caught my
yeah.
ear, which is "I'm not from America. I'm from Hull," because obviously I was born in Hull, and I'm like, and then
But
when I was at one of
yeah,
his,
so he plays with Dave, and I love Dave because he's like a very downbeat guy in all these bright colors, and then you've got Harrison, who's this upbeat guy in very beigey colors. It's like their personality switches. They're proper
I went to his
distinct.
birthday do last year, and the array of acts. They got like men with slick suits on that really, get the women going. And then they got these guys just wearing these vest t-shirts, really drunk, going, I can hardly play. The drums fell apart at one point, and Harrison's holding them up while someone's finishing their set. They had someone's drummer didn't turn up, so they got someone else who didn't know any of the songs, and he was just deliberately doing it wrong because he was like not happy about it. It was just funny, and I managed to film most of it as well.
That sounds so familiar. Yeah. Have you ever seen the Fall? Of course, obviously, sadly not with us anymore, Marky Smith. But
Yeah.
um, I actually saw the gig where he fired the drummer just before they played Reading Festival, and so they got the manager of the Chemical Brothers sat in, who used to be the drummer in Revolver, a shoegaze band I used to love
Yeah.
back in the 90s, but had never heard any of the songs. Wasn't really a full fan, but it was like, fuck it, I'll sit in. And it was like absolute atrocious mess. But it was like, but that's kind of always what you expected from the Fall. It was like, if it was slick and polished, you'd be a bit upset. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I loved about the Fall. It's like a mad drunk man ambling about the stage, playing with the amplifiers, turning things up, turning things down, like a band barely holding it together. And that was the Fall, and that's why they were genius.
Well, I've ended up inadvertently on a few live stages myself, right? Not knowing what I'm doing. So just pulled. So at Small World Festival, Groover just said, "If you're going to sit there with that drum, you've got to get on the stage," and pulls me in. So I'm sat there going, "I don't really know what I'm doing here."
Yeah, we had one recently on the US tour. We had this lad Dallas, I think his name was. He was very sweet. He's very hammered. Luckily, he was actually a drummer, although some of my time signatures through his little drunk brain. But he a really sweet lad. Greg Rikus, my tour mate, he tours with like a stage,
The
and he
Canadian
has
fella.
yeah, and he has tambourines attached to it. So this Dallas guy sits on the front of the stage, grabs one of the tambourines that Greg's got taped down, and starts joining in. Not too difficult for Greg's stuff, because he's quite four to the floor. It's
Yeah.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's stamping, so it's making an awful lot of noise for him to follow. My shit's got like sometimes goes into like 5/8 and 6/8 and weird. So he's still got the tambourine while I'm on, and he's like shaking it so out of time. And it was like, I was like, oh bless, it was so sweet.
Isn't that putting you off though as well?
You don't want to kind of say anything, because it's like, well, I don't want to come across as an asshole. He's having a good time. I'm having a good time. It's not really affecting anything. I'm still able to play in time. I just like, it's kind of a weird.
Well, you've
funny thing.
changed, haven't you? Because That's different to the djembe story you told me about that guy at the festival that was playing it badly and you just debagged him, just pulled his pants
Oh,
down.
that was oh my god, yeah, that was. Oh no, he was that way. I wasn't playing at that time. He was. I was just very drunk, and he was annoying the shit out of everybody. And I was like, drunk, yeah, drunk me, which is no longer about. It was quite a cheeky chappy, and I pantsed him. Yeah,
Oh, actually,
yeah.
I wanted to
Drunk
talk.
me is definitely. Now I'm not drinking these days. I'm definitely a lot more mellow and just like let shit
Well,
go. But
I
I've had
noticed that.
like
I basically,
do spoons and stuff, stuff like that. Spoons, guy hitting spoons
yeah,
with me, and it's like whatever. It's kind of fun. A live show should be fun.
yeah.
That's that's the be all and end all of it. I mean, if you're taking yourself so seriously, and some people do. I mean, like if you went to see Jason Isabel and some dude jumped up and started banging a tambourine around, you'd be a bit like, oh, fuck off, mate. Because Jason Isabel's stuff is so like precise
Yeah,
and like, I mean, the guy sound checks for like 3 hours. It's
yeah.
like he was in a recording studio. And you kind of want to hear certain acts. Yeah, you want to hear the record played live. But for what I do, for what like Greg Rikus does, it's a live show. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun.
So I filmed Mobius Loop down at the Brunswick in
Mm,
Brighton. I got paid for it as well. Amazing.
mm,
Not much, but just enough to get down there and all that stuff. And I get to go to see a free show, and I get to stand there with my camera right next to the stage.
yeah,
And Rose, I'm round the side of the stage, and Rose falls into the drums, and I catch it on film, and I put it out in the edit. No, it wasn't the Brunswick; it was Shrewsbury. And she's like, "Oh, so embarrassing!" I went, "No, that's what makes the live show. That's the
yeah,
bit in the whole show that you go, well, when I saw Rose fell into the drums,
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, it's just you're just doing your recorded music on the stage and just swaying a bit or whatever. It's much more fun when things go a little
Yeah,
bit wrong. Just
yeah. So these things are sort of there to sort of make the live show, aren't they? They're there
I love
to.
photographing people getting ready when they're stressed. At the beginning,
Yeah,
and it's all going wrong. That's when I like getting the photographs, and then you film the performance because
yeah,
I think that's the bit people need to see. And in fact, when I go to festivals now, I don't really film on the main stages if I can help it. I'll stay at the Tribal Voices fire pit and then just follow people around while they're having disasters, all the stuff and film all the bits because I think it makes a good film, it's a comedic sort of film because the stuff that goes on behind the scenes is hilarious.
yeah, yeah. I describe being a musician as pretty much like being a duck. The bit that people see, the elegant bit above the water, that's the bit you see. The rest of it's like paddling like fuck underneath,
Right,
keeping you
you've been name
afloat.
dropping. I'm going to name drop someone, right, that I've just interviewed because she's doing rather well for herself, Nuala. But talking about chaos and funny stuff, right? After Small World, she left in her van and it broke down in London outside the tube station. And I was just talking to her about footage, and she went, "Oh, I've lost my van and all my stuff's in it." And I went, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I broke down. I told the AA that I'd broke down, and they said because I was a vulnerable lady, that I should get a taxi and that they would pick it up later, right?" And she said, "I rang them in the morning and they said they hadn't found it, or it wasn't there." And I was talking to her and I went, "Just out of interest, have you been to where you left it to see if it's still there?" No. Anyway, a few hours later, she goes, "Found it. It's still where it was." They literally hadn't found it. They'd gone to the wrong place. So she
Well,
thought she'd lost her van, reported it stolen, the full works. And it's just a simple thing. You're just knackered after 4 days with no sleep. You've parked your van up, forgotten what's happened. Yeah,
yeah,
absolute chaos. But the artists, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying a lot of artists have ADHD. I kind of disagree. I think a lot of artists have so much going on that they have to concentrate on one or two things, otherwise they can't get
yeah,
anything done.
yeah. I know the feeling. I've got like so much going on right now. We're so the new record is a full band record. The one I'm want to chat to you about is it's a full band record, and the bass player on the album is my best friend James.
Yeah.
And James has been playing in the live band. Unfortunately, James lives in Exeter, and he's been coming up very diligently to do the band, but like a lot of other live stuff. I won't go too much into that, but he's had some live stuff go on and stuff, and also the commute up means he's kind of going to step away from. He's going to do the next few shows, next 4 shows that we've got coming up, but he's stepping away. So we've got the trying to find a new bass player. Ideally somebody in London or nearby thing going on now, and it's all like this morning just woke up to messages of like, what about this person? What about this person? What about?
I mean, I might have a
And then
bass
I've got to
player
get
for
the
you.
car fixed because there's no heating, and I'm going up to Scotland, and that's going to be cold.
Light a
Yeah, and it's
fire.
all like, kind of all, like I say, there's all that paddling underneath.
I might have a bass player for you, by the way, as well, if you want another one, because Nuala's bass player is called Welsh, and I think she's going to be busy most of the year with this Nuala project, the dance project, and he's a very talented bass player, and he's in London.
Yeah, throw him my way. We're sort of going to try some people
Fraser
out.
Welsh, his name is. So.
James is an incredible, talented bass player. I mean, like the bass playing on the record is absolutely incredible, and I love James to bits. But I totally get it. He's just, he's got so much life stuff going on. He lives like so far away, and I've really appreciated him coming up because basically he's the only musician that, well, we had Kieran, the violin player, came out. Kieran comes and goes. We tour together when it sort of suits. He's up in Leeds. And then Pete Wright, the drummer on the record, is a session drummer. He's in about 1 million bands. He's in Millie Manders and the Shut Ups. I don't know if you know them, but they're getting quite big. Pete doesn't have time to play in the live band, so we were like, okay, we'll find a new live band. We'll put it all together. And James was like, yeah, he plays bass on the album. It's kind of part of me trying to get him back into music after like so many years he hadn't really done anything. So, but got James in, and then I was like, well, kind of need James there to sort of be that anchor when we start the band. And I kind of knew it was coming. It was going to come at some point, that like spending an entire day getting up to London to do a band practice or a gig, whatever. He lives 5 hours, minimum 5 hours drive away or 5-hour train ride away. It's like, it's just ridiculous. So you're like, oh, this is going to break at some point. So when he said he was having sleepless nights about it, like getting ready to tell me that he was going to quit, and I was like, I kind of knew, dude. I kind of knew. Like, I've known.
Is that though? He probably felt like he was letting you down, having committed to it.
Yeah, no, and he's very graciously said that like the 4 gigs we've got for the album launch and stuff, he's going to still play. But he is an incredible bass player. I had an American hookup band on out in the States. I did a couple of shows with them, who learned the songs for the fest in Florida, and it was funny when they said to me the song Animal. I don't know how much of the album you've listened to, but Animal, the quite sort of heavy song.
Yeah,
it's got like what sounds like a guitar solo in it, and they said, oh, we've had to simplify the guitar solo because it's so complicated. I turned around to them and said, it's not a guitar, it's fucking bass. Yeah. It's a bass solo. It's just actually insane. He just put it in and was like, how's about that? And me and the producer just turned around to each other and went, yeah. It's like, because I was just going to do like a harmonics thing in it, and he was like, oh, what about this? This will fill it out. And then he promptly forgot it, and he spent ages like trying to work out how he actually fucking played it again. And then live, he's been doing it. Me and Jim, the rhythm guitarist, quite often do this thing when he's doing the bass.
Yeah. I was going to say, by the way, I've got a bass, and I haven't used it yet. But once I have, give me a week or so,
Yeah,
particularly if you've got a really bad bass player for one of your live shows, I'd be really good at that.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get somebody. We've got sort of ideas and options, like just seeing what's going to come up. The first guy Jim asked was was more of a guitar player. Didn't really know whether he could do bass, but we've got a few ideas anyway. We're just kind of throwing it out there at the minute. It's bass players are pretty easy to bass players and guitar players are pretty easy to circulate through. I find
Yeah.
it's drummers finding a good drummer. My God, that's the engine of your machine.
Well, that's what I'm going to learn is drumming, because that's really what I like doing. I like it.
Yeah,
So I play the guitar
drums
like
is
a drum
at the
anyway.
front, but it's to be a good drummer like Howard, who we have now in the live band, absolutely brilliant. Like love him to bits. He's in his 60s, and you can tell he's spent years playing in different types. He's played in jazz, punk, prog, all sorts of
You've got
stuff.
to live it, haven't you? Really, I think.
He even does like some solo drum stuff. He had like in the 80s, he had a thing that was played on Peel, like a solo drum thing that he made,
I
like sort of
love all
post.
that, because that's what I used to jam along to. I'll get some solo drum stuff up, stick it on, and then just sit and try and
Yeah,
match
if you
whatever.
check out, I think it's on YouTube. I think it's called Arnold Lane. He calls himself, but his name's Howard Lane, and yeah, it's awesome. He just does like solo drum stuff, so he clearly knows what he's doing, and he's been an absolute lifeline because we lost the original drummer, pulled out of being in the band quite early on, live band, and then Howard was just going to stand in, and after about two gigs, he turned to us and said, "Oh, at the end of this sort of run of gigs, is that me done?" And we were like, "No, we want you in the band." Now actually, I've started a second band with him. So the Escape Ghosts is
Escape
the
Ghosts, no way.
yeah,
Great
that's
name.
the Tim Holehouse and the Escape Ghosts is the sort of year stuff, grungy. We do Gainesville City Limits,
Is
that
that a
sort of
play
thing.
on words with scapegoats by any chance?
Yes, it is.
Oh, weird
Um,
that, because I used to ride a Diamondback scapegoat. I've been invited
yeah,
to race, by the way, in July. Come out
in
of
fact, actually,
retirement.
the guy I'm going to catch up with today, weirdly, a friend of mine has. This is a different album that's coming out in October, which is what the other thing that Howard is, the more blues based stuff. He's drumming for a band called the Howling Ghosts, which is my bluesier stuff. But I did an album called No, which is kind of we did in the studio, and it's taken a while to get together. But a guy called Terry Edwards. Have you ever heard of him?
I can't say if I'm perfectly honest, but then I haven't heard of a lot of people.
Oh, Terry Edwards does Terry Edwards and the Scapegoats. So I thought the Escape Ghosts would be like a nice nod to Terry. Terry, if you don't know who Terry is, you probably own records with Terry playing on.
I get a lot of this. I meet a lot of people who go, "Oh, look me up," and you go,
Yeah, no, I knew some of Terry's CV. Like he plays with PJ Harvey, Nick Cave.
"PJ
He
Harvey."
played with Madness, Snuff, Gallon Drunk, Spiritualized, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But the best one was when I said to him, he said, "Oh, what flavor is this album?" And I said, like, "Oh, think Tom Waits' The Black Rider,
one
but a bit
sec.
heavier."
Yeah, one
And he
sec.
goes, "Oh, I know that one. I played on that."
Come on. Oh, sorry,
Oh, doggo.
sorry.
It's all right. So
She's just
yeah,
been chewing her harness. I think she's just broken the clip on it.
oh dear.
Lie down.
So yeah, so that's another thing I've got on the boil is I've got a sort of second band on the go, but I'm meeting up with Terry, who does Terry Edwards and the Scapegoats, and we're going to the Groucho Club.
So here's a weird tie-in with all of what you've just said, right? That Diamondback scapegoat, which I've got me on video breaking some records on Strava when I was about 46, got stolen,
Oh no.
and it's popped up twice. I found it in Liverpool first on eBay, and it just popped up in Exeter last year for sale again, resprayed. Right? It's unique. They only made 50 of them. This one was it.
Mm.
I bought it. It was the only one in the UK. It's got unique combination of tubes and things and some stuff that I've done to it, modified. And every time it pops up, it's so easy to see. And every time you do it, you go, try to arrange to come and view it. And then the guy goes, gets a bit cagey with you. It was at a factory unit in Exeter with a load of other stolen bikes. It's brilliant.
Oh,
So Exeter. And by the way,
yeah.
we did Queer Spirit last year at Exeter at the
Ah,
grandson of Lord Louis Mountbatten's his estate. I'm doing it again this year.
hmm.
for Tribal Voices. We can't pay you, but you can come and sit and meet all the queers in Exeter if you're around the area. Queer, and queer doesn't mean gay, by the way. It means anyone a bit weird, but it is predominantly gay. Yeah, you know, but they're okay. Just like you. You're a vegan, but you're okay.
People be people. People be people. Just be
That's
yourself.
I like to pretend I'm the only straight in the village when I'm down there, you know. And it was the first one I did last year, and I end up chatting to this guy in a dress, and I'm going, "Oh, what do you do then?" And he goes, "Oh, I own the place." It was Mr. Mountbatten himself, and I'd been chatting to his daughter earlier by the fire, and she'd been telling me about her family quite openly. The weird thing is, my granddad fought for his granddad in Burma. And I've got my granddad's autobiography here. So next time I go, I'm going to take it and see if I can sit down with him and go, no way. It's a funny old world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, did you want me to play a few tunes from the album?
So what I'm going to do, because we just run out of time on this recording, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to let the dog out for a piss. And if you've got time, I want to come back because I really want to talk about your album.
Yeah.
What it's about, but also about why you do what you do. Because, like, say you're a vegan and you make a joke of it straight at the beginning. I'm not a vegan. Moby Sloop are vegans. I'm not a vegan, but they don't. I've got my own ethics around meat. You know what I mean? And a lot's happened to you as well, or before I met you during lockdown before, and you went through a bit of a conversion, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk about that, but I'll let the dog out for a piss first.
Okay, I'll go and make another coffee. I'll chat to you in a second.
All right. Speak to you in a sec.
Okay, cool.